Nowhere to go.
Now the end we always feared is coming.
Winter is coming.
Can you hear my voice?
Alright guys, welcome back to another Division 2 build video. And what I have for you today is my Dark Winter SMG Heartbreaker build, as the name would suggest. Effectively, the whole premise of this build is having substantial damage whilst also having substantial sustain. And we'll get into the details of that as we go along. First of all, let's look at the Dark Winter. If you're not familiar with this SMG, if you're new to the game, this is not really a gun that's used in the Dark Zone a lot, primarily because of the perfect killer or the talent that comes along with it. Killing an enemy with a critical hit grants 50% critical hit damage for 10 seconds. The whole point of it not being, let's say, meta is the fact that you need a kill before that really kicks in. However, when that kicks in, you've got 50%, coming from the gun alone, and at the same time, you have Obliterate, which can stack up to 25 times, giving you 25% weapon damage. And at the same time, you've also got Catharsis, which, kind of gives you the cloud and nullifies some kind of like status effects when it procs. And at the same time, you can also get like 30 stacks of 1% weapon damage. So that's 30% weapon damage, 25% weapon damage, which is 55% weapon damage, plus potentially 50% critical hit damage from the Dark Winter. And when you put that in the context of all this, you're looking at 200% critical hit damage, an additional 55 if you've got everything maxed out, weapon damage, and then at the same time you've also getting the sustain from the Heartbreaker Set, which gives you the additional armor and protection as you're firing the gun, and at the same time it also gives you additional benefits from a damage perspective as well. So 1% bonus armor, 1% weapon damage to pulse enemies to a max of 50 stacks. So in theory, mathematically, 50% crit hit damage brings this up to almost 200% crit hit damage with 53% crit hit chance, combined with 30% weapon damage that you can get from this, an additional 25 that you can get from this, and then an additional 50 from this. So 50 plus 55, hopefully my math is correct, 105 additional weapon damage plus 200% critical hit damage if you have everything procced. Now, the only caveat to this is the fact that you need to get a kill to get that explicit critical hit damage up to around 200%. And the reason I'm running this, and I think it's viable in the Dark Zone, is because if you're just going into the Dark Zone to just shoot players, then this is not really going to be the build for you. This is almost like a build where you clear landmarks, and if there's players there, you can go rogue and you can kill them, or if they go rogue, they can attack you, but you've got the sustain to kind of get into that. In terms of the overall stats, I've already discussed the critical hit chance and damage. We've got that. We've also got 70% weapon headshot damage, which, you know, is kind of goes beyond it because we're playing with a different with a link length laser pointer on this build. But in terms of armor, 1.7 mil. We don't have any armor on kill, which we'll come to next. And then, you know, just these are all basic stats, which really doesn't matter. What really matters for this build, for the purpose of this video, is the crit chance, crit damage, and the combination of everything together, as I've discussed earlier. So I've got a max out catharsis with, you know, what it comes with, incoming repairs and armor regen. And then we've got Heartbreaker Set, you know, maxed out with crit damage, crit damage, crit damage, crit damage, crit damage. And we get the additional 15% from the group of Sombra, and then we also got crit hit damage chance and damage on there as well. That's how we get to maximize this. Now, as you would have seen in the intro clips, you know, you're running against guys that's possibly running Ouroboros, or, you know, they try to shoot you, and in a one-on-one engagement, you're building stacks whilst they're doing damage, but you're also increasing your damage the more you shoot and the more damage you take. So the circular loop of the build just makes sense, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. I've come across, you know, guys that playing Ouroboros Striker with 4 striker pieces with the circular off here and the Catharsis mask, and you know, even though they need to build all of those stacks, me without any stacks, because of the sustain, can fight that engagement, and the better player comes out on top. The reason I'm running the Eagle Bearer is for the following reason. This is just normal. Let's just do a normal one. So now we've got almost all of our Heartbreaker stacks, and we've got, you know, all of the Obliterate stacks. You're looking at that already. We've already got the talent procced on the gun as well, which means you're hitting around, you know, 500,000 crits on this, which you do very often. So you do a lot of damage. However, let's say you get to a named enemy or someone with substantial armor, you know, and you can't finish him off completely. As soon as you go back to the Eagle Bearer, there's your tenacity buff, which means now you've got all of your stacks for Heartbreaker, you've got your weapon damage from Obliterate, and now you also got the tenacity buff as well. So not only if you don't happen to kill 3 players to remove all the damage that you would get from the tenacity buff, you still have the additional armor that was produced by the Heartbreaker set to help you mitigate some of that. So I have played with the Eagle Bearer. I love it as well, but you sometimes get into a position where you take substantial amount of damage, you come out on top, but then you die because, you know, the damage is delayed. The additional armor that the Heartbreaker set allows you to put together kind of mitigates that. So how you would go into an engagement is you would go in, you'll start with the SMG, you know, you'll play around, do a bit of damage, build up your stacks, etc. And then you'll switch to the Eagle Bearer. And you're sorted. So that's kind of like the loop that I'm running with. On the gun, I'm running crit chance, and additional max, so extra rounds, and then I'm running the link laser pointer. The reason I'm running this, because I played this with Gunner as well, and you can play it with Gunner, that's perfectly fine. But for the Heartbreaker set to proc the actual pulse, you need the headshots. And sometimes you've got guys running around the dark zone like this towards you with a shotgun, and trying to get a headshot on them to proc sometimes is difficult, and you won't, the opportunity cost of not building up the stacks as they run just by link lasering them like this, you can shoot them wherever you want. Look at those stacks already. So if he runs around like this all the time and you're in the dark zone and you just shoot him, you know, in the chest, on the legs or whatever, you're still going to get your buff. So by the time he comes closer, you can go in, you can switch around, play, and then take care of his friends if you need to do that as well. So hopefully that makes sense. So effectively, that is the build. I'm running the, as you would have seen in the intro clip, I'm running the Stinger Hive because of the bleed application. Not a lot of people are running bleed resist. They're running bleed damage, so they're running the chest piece, the exotic chest piece, to do, you know, to facilitate bleeding effect, but they don't necessarily have bleed resistance. So if someone pushes you, the whole premise of this is to be able to put down your soul, let them come into your little circle. You're able to kind of like distract them with that while you're building all of your stacks, going crazy. You know, at the end of the day, you pop your drone and then you finish them off you know, with the Eagle Bearer, and you got your tenacity buff, and that is the circular loop of the build, and that's why we're playing the with the link laser pulsar and this, you know, class setup. These two guns. However, if you don't have the Eagle Bearer, nothing's going to stop you from running a shield splinterer or a FAMAS. I would suggest something with more stability than actual damage. So the FAMAS is phenomenal in that respect because it has, you know, very strong accuracy and stability as a, you know, just as a start. And if you want to keep the additional critical hit damage, you can get to up to 40 to 50% critical hit damage just by emptying the mag on a player as well, whilst you're building stacks, etc. So it's very simple to just slot that in there as well and get that additional weapon damage. Look, that goes to over 500,000 as well. That was over 633. 571. 631. So there we go. 1.7 million armor, doing 200% potential critical hit damage, gaining an additional 105% weapon damage, whilst you have 1.7 million armor. That is a great combination for the Darkzone, in my opinion. I would suggest that if you're struggling to proc with the Dark Winter and you don't want to, you know, kill NPCs or whatever before you go into an engagement, the fact that it's so short, nothing's stopping you from running a different SMG with the link laser pointer on as well. I mean, you can just run the Vector with Optimist on it, and you would do really well as well. It's not going to be substantially different, but you're also going to do well with it in general. See, you've got 475, 471, so you can still do well. Hopefully that explains the build and the way I used to play it. And I hope you guys do enjoy it. Just a final key, I do have the Magnum pistol in here if you want to go even more excessive. If you've got an NPC or even a player and you've downed them, just rip this guy out and you get another additional 30%. So then you're looking at 230%, you know, critical hit damage, which is just absurd. But anyway, I love the circulation, the circular effect that this have. It's like a diversification of damage, and I'd like to know what you guys think about it. I tested this live on my live stream recently as well, so you can go and check that, and we'll continue to do so going forward. I hope you guys found this helpful. Let me know what you think about the build, if this is something you will use, and how we can improve it, because that obviously is better for everybody. Alternatively, I would suggest you can run a circle off here with Obliterate as well. And just as a final note, I'm not running Unbreakable because of the sustain that we get from the set, and that's just been my observation in the Darkzone so far. So I wish you guys all the best. Thanks for tuning in. Support on the channel has been fantastic, and I'm really appreciative of that. I look forward to putting out more content and sending you guys builds that's not necessarily meta but can perform as if it is. All the best for the rest of the week. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, drop a like if you did, a dislike if you didn't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.